Blog Talk Radio.
But we are making a stand, and we're waking everybody up that 9/11 was an inside job. And you are the minority. You are the cowards who don't know the truth. You're the people that serve this evil system. You're the people that serve a system that hurts innocent men, women, and children. Not just Iraqis, not just Afghans, not just Africans, but the people right here in this nation. You serve a new world order that attacks and feeds on you. And I'm here to tell you that you will be defeated. Your hours are numbered. We've got the energy. We've got the life force. All you've got is evil backing you up. All you've got is greed and liking to look at yourself in the mirror. Because deep down, the New World Order is a pot-bellied, chicken-necked ninny. And all the armor and all the weapons are nothing. You are nothing compared to good. You are nothing compared to life. And you will be defeated. I want the individuals out there, I want free humanity to turn themselves loose, to cut the chains loose, and to use the end of that chain to slap the New World Order right upside the head. You've got the power. You want to know who's going to defeat the New World Order? It is you. You're the individuals that are going to be able to defeat this system. You're the individuals that are going to be able to take down the New World Order. It doesn't matter if Ron Paul wins. It doesn't matter if they rig the election. What matters is that we're starting to stand up. We're starting to move. We're starting to find our legs. We're starting to build our muscle. We're starting to realize that we do have power, and we can work together, and we can take action, and that the naysayers are a pack of weak liars who have never had any successes in their life and who are upset and frustrated to see us beginning to have victories against tyranny. They don't have any respect for themselves. They don't have any vision, and they don't have any will. And they sure don't have any of the power that shines out of God's soul and energizes all life in the universe. They have wed themselves to death, and they will crumble, and they will fall, and for eternity.
Renewed hostile actions against United States ships on the high seas and the Gulf of Tonkin have today required me to order the military forces of the United States to take action in reply.
Dr. Martin Luther King, the apostle of nonviolence in the civil rights movement, has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee.
Senator Kennedy has been shot. Is that possible? He still has the gun. The gun is pointed at me right at this moment. Take a hold of his thumb and break it if you have to. We will prevent a full suicide. We have an explosion, and we are defending immediately. Let's try our best.
People calling themselves members of the Weather Underground last night planted bombs in federal office buildings in Washington and Oakland, California.
They took the babies out of incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
Survivors of the USS Liberty are demanding a congressional investigation into what happened and acknowledgement that the Israeli Air Force bombed a U.S. intelligence Navy ship.
The death of bin Laden marks the most significant achievement to date in our nation's effort to defeat al-Qaeda.
The Taliban is taking responsibility for shooting down a U.S. helicopter. More than 30 people were killed, and there are reports this morning that most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
There may be a false flag incident where some ship goes down and be used for the excuse to accelerate the next war.
If there's one thing that has unified Democrats and Republicans, and everybody in between, is that we all hated the bank bailout.
The Department of Homeland Security is apparently on a huge ammo buying spree.
It comes out to like 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition.
Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people.
They estimated that they would have to eliminate 25 million people in these re-education centers. And when I say eliminate, I mean kill.
I'm here to warn people. You keep telling me to shut up. This isn't a game.
From the front lines of the information war.
ACS arm switch is on. Okay, Victor. Landing rocket arm switch is on. Here comes the throttle. Circuit breakers in. We have
separation. Inboard and outboard, they're on. We're coming forward with the side stick. Looks good. Roger. I've got a blowout. Vapor 3. Pitch to 0. Pitch is out. I can't hold altitude. Correction. Alpha is on. Trip selected. Emergency. Flight column, I can't hold it. She's breaking up. She's breaking.
Steve Austin, astronaut. A man barely alive.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first bionic man. Steve Austin will be that man. Better than he was before. Better, stronger, faster.
Okay, how you doing, everybody? My name is Joseph Gibson. We're live on Blog Talk Radio tonight, Thursday evening, a little after 6 p.m. on the East Coast. Broadcasting from Greensboro, North Carolina. I know we have people from all over the country listening tonight. California, Texas, Wisconsin, Connecticut, North Carolina. So that's good. We got the corners of the country all covered. So we are 100% live. There are no commercials. This isn't entertainment. We're here to talk about the issues that we face today, understanding the times in which we live in today. If there's anyone out there who has problems or has a story to share, I always allow anyone to participate if they choose, or if they have something they have to get off their mind, or if they feel something should be talked about. I do not censor radio shows where I have my mouth talk and that's it. And it's my show, and you don't get to say what you got to say. And if I don't like what you say, I block you. No, I do not do that to people. I will not do that to people. You have just as much right to voice your opinion on a show like this as I do. However, I like to try to stick to the facts of what's going on today and what's happening today. Of course, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and it's good to listen to opinions, but that does not mean everyone's opinion should be applied as a fact or a factual foundation, and we should base ourselves to live around your opinion or my opinion, because we need to stick to the facts. There's a lot of bullshit out there and nonsense. A lot of people tell stories, misinformation, and that's one of the big problems in America today. Misinformation, false representation. It's hard to find the truth. Everyone's full of it. We know that. We all say that. We all talk about that. Okay? I'm going to check in tonight with Dr. Peter Ventura from San Diego, California. He lives on Imperial Beach near the Navy base out there. And he asked me to give him a call tonight. Hopefully he'll answer. So after my short introduction, I'll go ahead and give him a call. He asked me to give him a call. Dr. Ventura also hosts a show on Blog Talk Radio on Thursday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's called Sound Doctrine. That's more of a theology, biblical show. And actually, he asked me to call in there tonight. So if any of you want to hear more of me, you can go over and listen to that show tonight. That's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm going to call in there and, give a little chat. Just talk about a few issues, or he's going to ask me some questions. That's where I started on that network. That's Enterprise Media on Blog Talk Radio, and the show is called Sound Doctrine. That's with Dr. Peter Ventura from San Diego, California, and I'm sure he'll plug his show tonight when I call him in a little bit. But I want to thank everyone who's listening tonight. Like I said, if you have an issue you want to talk about, the phone number is 657-383-0616. You can call that phone number. And if you just want to listen, that's fine. You can listen over the telephone. But if you want to connect to me, you have to press 1. No one else will see your number. You can remain anonymous if you choose. I know a lot of people worry about that because all the wackos out there. No one can see your number. No one can see your name. No one will know who you are unless you choose for them to receive that information. Be the only one that could see your phone number. Okay? But obviously what's happened out west, a lot of people were asking me questions about that, the Oregon incident there where a bunch of militia members have taken refuge in a federal building.
a lot of people don't understand what's really happening out there and why they're doing what they're doing, okay? And really, I don't know 100% of the truth of why they're doing what they're doing. However, I've checked in with alternative media sites and talked with a couple people, and I belong to a few militia sites because I support the militia, most militia groups. And from listening to the chatters and the talk, apparently this has to do with the BLM, okay? And if a lot of you don't know what the BLM is, it's a government agency that basically does land management, okay? Out west, there's millions of acres of land that are unused, untouched. And the government has taken claim to that land. However, a lot of the ranchers out there, okay, allow their cattle to graze on that unused land. And that was really a part of the agreement from the beginning when the states were first founded. We're not going to get all the way into that because that's a long history lesson. However, that was the original agreement. However, the BLM has all of a sudden decided not to allow these ranchers to graze their cattle on that land anymore. Well, let me tell you something. If I have 400 cattle and I have a 500-acre farm and I'm using 1,500 acres of the people's land that the government claimed is theirs, and they tell me now I can't, that's going to cause a big problem for my livelihood, my stock. And that's going to shut me down as a rancher because to feed that many cattle, to go buy the feed is impossible. The cost would be it would just be outrageous. Okay? And a lot of these ranchers, folks, supply the food that you eat every night and every day. That goes into your grocery stores. Okay? Farmers provide you with the food you eat. So farming is very important. The farmers should be taken care of. The ranchers should be looked out for. The government does not care. I lived on a dairy farm when I was a kid, a dairy farm out in the state of Wisconsin. And, it's a dairy farm. We produced milk. And, of course, we all use milk or dairy products, cheese, or, butter, what have you. And farmers provide a service that's very important to the people of this country. People just don't get that. They don't, the food just doesn't appear. It has to be made. It has to be produced. It has to be processed. But anyway, get back to the ranchers. So this issue here, the ranchers say they have had enough. So they called in the militia. And apparently the militia said we had enough. They marched into a federal building, a federally owned building. Nobody was there. It was empty. And they said, this is our building now. Get out, government. We don't want you here. And apparently there's a couple hundred militiamen up there. And I believe yesterday it was. 8 of them went into town to get some supplies. They've been coming and going as they please underneath police surveillance. I guess the police finally decided to engage them. Of course, violence erupted, and 1 person ended up dead, and 8 others were arrested. Okay? Now, what has happened since, I do not know. If anyone does know, they can call me and let me know. But that's where it stands right now. A lot of people are saying these militia wanted to start a spark that would spread across the country, that would start a revolution. Like the Boston Massacre, for instance, the shot heard around the world. Okay, like in 1776, they started the Revolutionary War. A lot of these militia groups and members believe that that's what we need. We need a revolution. We need to dismantle this government and start from anew. The government is corrupt. It doesn't work for the people. And that's what they believe. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. To get into a shooting war with the government is suicide. I do not support that type of violent action at all. Because if you do we're smarter now than we were 200 and something years ago. And we have more technology. And we can look at, what would happen if we got into a shooting war with the government, okay? The casualty rate would be about 70 to 80% in this country if we had another civil war. You're talking over 200 million people dying because that's what would happen. This country would be destroyed, all right? Say goodbye to your electricity. Say goodbye to your running water, okay? Say goodbye to McDonald's, Burger King. You're not going to the movies on the weekend. All right? You pull up to get gas at a gas station. Good luck. All right? Don't send the kids off to public school. Everything you know will stop if this country goes into a civil war. Hey, a lot of what these people are talking about has a lot of legitimate grievances here. But like I said, I don't support the violence. We don't need that shot heard around the world. Many people will disagree with me and say, no, we do need to overthrow the government, which, according to the Constitution, is our right as the people. We have a right to disband this government. So let me tell you something. Those police officers with the badges and the patches, and those judges with the black robes, and those politicians with their fancy suits and their nice $700,000 houses are not going to give up that easily. All right? And the real people who own this country, like the Federal Reserve, they have a system in place and a plan. We're not going to get into that. That's part of the New World Order. We've talked about that in previous shows. If you want to know about the New World Order, then you need to listen to previous shows. We've talked about it many, many times. We're not going to get really into that on this show, but there is a plan, and there are people who are very rich, very powerful. We're not talking about Bill Gates with $44 billion. We're talking about people like the Rothschilds, okay? Families with, if you never heard of the Rothschilds, Google them. They're one of the richest families in the world. We're talking trillions of dollars in assets they own, okay? The Warburgs, Carnegies, those are the powerful, not Bill Gates or Oprah Winfrey, okay, or Forbes, okay? Those aren't the richest people in the world. That's what they tell you on the TV. But if we get back to the shooting, this shooting war theory where a lot of people think we could just pick up our guns and go to war with the government. Who are you going to fight, ghosts? I mean, what are you going to do, go shoot your neighbor? What are you going to do, go march up to a local police station and start killing cops? I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the governor's house and try to kill the governor? I mean, how is this going to go about? What kind of spark do they think they're going to look for, this militia? What we are really in today is an information war. Okay? We need to know what's really going on out there. Like I said in the very beginning, there is too much misinformation, too much bullshit, too much nonsense. No truth in advertising. Corporate America has corrupted our people so bad. Walmarts, Home Depots, places like that who do not care about you. These big companies. Okay, when small business ruled this country, we had a moral foundation. We had a righteous foundation. You had truth. You can't order anything over the internet or walk into a store and have any type of truth at all anymore. You ask, you go into Walmart, hey, where's this at? Blah blah blah. They don't even want to talk to you. They don't care. They're not there. Customer no service. They don't care. And if you go to the front desk and make a complaint, yeah, whatever. They don't care about you. They got another sucker walking in the door right when you're walking out. Take a look at the doors when you're walking in and out of a store. You're walking in, one's going out. It's a revolver. They don't care. People are going to go there and spend their money regardless of what you think. That's misinformation and corruption. That's what we have in America today. All right? And then, we'll get to the government level, the politicians. You have the Republican debate going on this evening, Donald Trump, all this. They talk about nothing that concerns us as a people or as or what concerns us as individuals, the people in America. They don't represent our views anymore, these politicians. Okay? It's a big puppet show. They're tearing each other apart, criticizing each other. It's a big puppet show. It's ridiculous. Are they really talking about anything that concerns us as individuals today? No. But nobody cares, and really nobody can do anything about it. So what do? Back to this militia out west. This is their grievance. America is broken, and they're trying to wake people up but I believe they're doing it the wrong way. If you want to get into a shooting war with the government, it's not the right way to go. I just told you the right way to go. It's an information war. We need to get to the bottom of everything and start with the truth and try to tell the truth, bring the truth forward, and start to have a little bit of morals in this country and take back and get away from this liberal nonsense, okay, and have some sort of righteous foundation restored to this country and have a moral backbone where our kids are brought up properly and we, the people, stand for something instead of standing for nothing. Like George Washington said, you got to stand for something or you're going to fall for everything. And that's what it's all about, folks. We're in an information war. So I'm going to give Brother Peter a call, or I'm going to attempt to give him a call, I guess. If there's anyone else who has something they want to discuss tonight or they have something on their mind, the phone number is 657-383-0616. And you can, like I said, you could just listen if you choose to on the phone line, or you can press 1 and you'll be connected with me, okay? And I'm trying to call Peter now, and apparently he might be unavailable. Hang on, just bear with me here. Dial his number. I got somebody who wants to check in right now, so we'll go ahead and go to him. This is Wisconsin. Go ahead. How you doing? Mike from Wisconsin. Go ahead.
Hey, Joe. Hi. Hello, everyone that's listening. You know, I have a thing I'd just like to bring up to see what anybody's opinion is. You know, they talk about global warming, you know, how it's affecting us and our planet. And, you know, being from Wisconsin, I mean, we used to have snowstorms that you could basically stand on the top of the snow that they plowed on the road, and you'd be right level with the power lines. And you know, we sometimes they had to crawl out their second-story house window to get outside. You know, and you know, of course, we haven't had anything like that in quite a while. But look at the storms that have hit like New England and the Carolinas, and even like down in Florida, they're having somewhat of hurricanes. You know, hurricane force winds and tornadoes that are flipping over cars and damaging houses. And it's January. What I'm trying to say is, you know, that something is topsy-turvy. I don't believe
they claim there's global warming. Yes, the global warming nonsense, and basically that has a lot to do with their carbon tax that they want to push forward, and it's all like who was the one that was first promoting the globe? What was his name? That Al Gore. First, he was the first one that started this and tried to really push that forward when he was vice president, but nobody bought into it. And here it is again. It's an important topic, and you're right. It's a crock of baloney. Look, you're right, Mike. There is no global warming. The country is not becoming warmer. Like you said, here in North Carolina, it's become colder every winter. I used to be a landscaper, okay? When I first started landscaping here in North Carolina, I was mowing grass full-time the first week of March, okay? Now I don't start mowing grass until the first week of April, okay, or the last week of March. So what I'm trying to say is it has gotten colder here, not warmer. Yes, the summers are brutal, but when has summer not been incredibly hot? I remember back when I was out in Wisconsin in the summer, we had some heat waves. That's summer. You know, I remember growing up, sometimes it get up to 98 degrees. Wow, it's hot. But that's summer. It isn't, you know, nothing's changed in my life anyway. And you're older than I am. Have you seen it become warmer every single year?
No, but like you say, you know, every season is a season. And like I was trying to point out, you know, years ago when Melody was a young child, you know, they had snow up to the second story of the window of their homes. You know, we haven't had that in a very long time. It's just, you know, you got flukes, you know, that are happening, and you know, and Al Gore, he said he invented the internet too. Oh yeah, right, okay. And why do you see him out there fighting for global warming ever since he's gotten out of the vice presidency? No,
actually, no, he hasn't. But he's still, if he's paid at to go. A lot of these politicians, they'll go to these universities and they're paid outrageous amounts of money to speak. Like Bill Clinton and stuff like that. And yeah, he does do some speeches concerning global warming. But Mike, I want to get to one other person that's called in now. This is Meriden, Connecticut. So I'm going to go ahead and put him on, and you can stay on too. But go ahead, Meriden, Connecticut.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Joe. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday. It's not my birthday. I don't have birthdays anymore.
All right, go ahead, Joe. Go ahead. What's on your mind?
Well, Michael is correct. Al Gore did invent the internet, So but you have to Earth's changes take thousands and thousands of years and millions of years, and they say global warming and all the scientists agree and everything. Well, see, and the tide's going to rise and the East Coast is going to disappear and everything. Well, take a bunch of ice, put it in a glass, fill the glass up to the top with water, and go to bed and wake up in the morning and see where the water level is when the ice melts. It's not on a counter, that's for sure. So the East Coast isn't going to disappear because it all has to do with the English language. The English language is so misleading. Let's not even get into what the media or the TV news or the newspapers have to say. You can never really figure out what anybody's really saying. For instance, Joe was mentioning about assets before. I don't know what he's talking about. What is he talking about? Little people? I don't know. So see, you have to question everybody on what they mean, and that's the way we're talked to with our politicians. They talk to us and
what I'm trying to say is get back to the global warming just real quick. Do you believe what Mike is saying as far as global warming is concerned? Do you believe that global warming is actually happening?
Well, I just went through that. I don't know if global warming is actually happening or not. What I'm saying is the Earth changes. There's always ice ages and there's always warming. So if we're in a warming stage now, then yes, we're having global warming. But the bottom line is it's all about to get your dollar bill. It's all about to tax you. It's all about to do away with the currency, put your money on a card, and when they get pissed off at you, they turn the card off, and now you're at their mercy.
Sure. No, you're absolutely right. It's about control. And that's what I talked about in my opening. Somebody was in the chat room. They said they have an issue that they want to call in and speak about. I'm kind of waiting for them to call in so you guys can carry on about the global warming. But anyone who wants to call in, the phone number is 657-383-0616. You got to press 1. As soon as you press 1, I will see a question mark appear by your phone number, and I will connect you, okay? I have about 20 callers on the line, and here's the new number now. This must be the new caller, so I'm going to go ahead and connect him right now. Go ahead. I think Truth Seeker was your name in the chat room, but go ahead, sir. Whatever you got to say, go ahead and say it.
Hey, Joseph, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, buddy. Thanks very much for allowing me to be on. I won't take too much of the time because I know other people also want to share. My name is Mitch, and I just want to share with you and your listeners. I don't know if you ever heard about this serious international human rights issue that I've worked with and worked on for the last 14 years of my life with the live forced organ harvesting of the spiritual movement of Falun Gong in China. Have you ever heard of the spiritual movement or this forced organ harvesting of them?
I heard a little bit, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not too educated on it. And you don't have to rush, because I give everyone as much time as they want. So educate me, please, and educate whoever else is listening. I'll give you whatever amount of time you need.
Thank you, Joseph. Well, for the last 14 years, I've dedicated my life. I'm an immigrant. I've come from South Africa, immigrated to this beautiful country of America. God bless the Americans for allowing me to be here. And my dedication stemmed from 2001 when I started to practice this beautiful movement, this mind and body practice that was introduced into the general public of mainland China between 1992 and 1998, namely Falun Gong, a spiritual meditation and mind and body practice, one of many, but Falun Gong became the largest holistic practice in all of communist China, where 1 out of every 12 national citizens, about 100 million people, 10% of the population by 1998. And with its slow-moving exercises, its meditation, it was healing all kinds of tuberculosis, cancers, hepatitis, MS. People were walking out of their wheelchairs after 40 years being in them, to AIDS, to any kind of injuries and ailments. This was a true opiate of the Chinese people, and by 1998 it reached 1 out of every 12 Chinese national citizens. It's deeply rooted in Chinese Buddhism and the universal principle of being more truthful and compassionate and tolerant. Therefore, the rising morality of the Chinese people in terms of productivity rates, suicide rates were going down, people were being kinder with each other. It was much more of a harmony. And the West wanted to know what was this all going on. Why was China improving so rapidly in terms of their morality, especially under such evil tyranny of the communist regime for the last 50 years, starting with Mao Zedong in 1949. But before the truth could be exposed to the general public outside of China of what Falun Gong was all about, the military dictator of China became very jealous and threatened that he couldn't control the hearts and the minds of so many Chinese people practicing Falun Gong particularly. And he outlawed it, slandered, brutally persecuted it, and spent 1/4 of China's gross domestic profit for the last 16 plus years sending millions of Falun Gong practitioners to these death camps, state-mandated, state-endorsed, state-funded, and also with the hospitals, the military, the secret police, all involved, cutting out the Falun Gong organs, basically first slandering them and demonizing them as an evil, sinister cult, just like Nazi Germany and Hitler with the Jews, and demonizing them and slandering them, and then sending the Falun Gong to these death camps, cutting out their organs while alive, selling the organs, and then burning the bodies in the crematories and to conceal the evidence. This is a new form of evil that hasn't existed on such a large scale, scope, and size of this magnitude in modern history. And I've been working with the World Organization to investigate the persecution of Falun Gong, and 2 international human rights lawyers out of Canada, David Mattis and David Kilgore, who actually investigated and confirmed that these reports have been confirmed and are legit. So I just wanted to share this with you, Joseph, and I appreciate you and your listeners talking about allowing me to share.
What is this? I mean, you're saying this is a new type of crime that has not been talked about in the international media, and this indicated like the beginning of how it started, and now this has turned into an international thing where they're selling organs, people's organs around the world?
Just in China particularly, there have been organ harvesting around the world, but not to this scale, this size, and this magnitude in history since the Holocaust of 1945. And when this really hits the mainstream, the forced organ harvesting of this particular group, Falun Gong, when this really gets exposed to the mainstream media and the world, it's going to shock the world's people that this actually has gone on for the last 16 years. Unfortunately, so much money, the communist regime in China has the largest economy, the largest military. It has its hands in all the countries around the world. It funds most of the known dictatorships around the world. It has funded the entire military and nuclear weapons for arms program of North Korea. It funds the Russians, and it is the unseen, most dangerous terrorist organization on the face of the earth. But unfortunately, we have been distracted by ISIS, who is also evil, but a crap stain on the mattress compared to what is going on in China. So I urge your listeners to really look into this. Maybe go to stoporganharvesting.org. But this is, Joseph, I tell you, the communist regime has bought out the mainstream media, concealed these facts, all its contractual obligations with a lot of corporations like Boeing, Target, Walmart.
Are you a part of any type of organization right now that's trying to fight this, or are you just an individual that believes this should be stopped?
I'm working with organizations. I actually formed my own organization to expose this, but I work with the World Organization to investigate the persecution of Falun Gong. I also work with StopOrganHarvesting.org, Freedom House, and Amnesty International. But this is such a horrific and an unbelievable crime on such a large scale.
What I'm trying to get at
Right.
is in the future, if you want, maybe a few weeks from now, if you can get a couple of fellow people who are working with you, or people who believe the way you do, or a part of your organization, I'll be willing to give you a time slot where I will advertise the show, put it on the internet, and we can get people from around the world to call in and listen, and you can educate them like you just did tonight.
I would love to, and I also work with Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting, so I'd love to get the doctors on there, and hopefully I can get the former Secretary of State to the Asian Cabinet of Canada, one of the lead attorneys, David Kilgore, to come on the show as well. How can I reach you?
That would be great.
Joseph?
Do you have a pen and paper? Do you have a pen and paper? I'll give you my email address. You can contact me through my email.
Oh, this is it's a pleasure. Thank you. I mean, this is why I love shows like yourself, because I can tell you right now, I try to get on. I called the vice president of Fox Communication in New York. I shared this with him, but he's shocked. They haven't got the courage to expose us because they are so scared of the communist regime cutting off their contractual obligations. You cannot believe.
Oh, yeah, a national media, of course, yeah. Of course, the national media is bought and paid for. They're told what to say. The only way you're going to get this out is through alternative media programs such as this and others. But then again, like I opened up in my introduction, a lot of blog talk radio shows, they have their own personal agenda. You see, my show is, I want to hear from everybody. I want to know what's going on out there. I could sit here and talk about myself all day, but I could do that by myself, because that's what's going to happen if I don't listen to other people. I want to hear from everybody. And you bring a very important topic.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I have a pen ready whenever you are.
All right. You can contact me at Joe Gibson is home at yahoo.com. Joe Gibson is home at yahoo.com.
At Yahoo, I'm also at yahoo.com. Great. Okay, so JoeGibson is home at yahoo.com, and that's just one word. There's no points or periods.
That's correct.
Okay. And my name is Mitchell Joseph. And again, if I can just share a website, maybe people can go and research. I'll send you all the websites, but just for your listeners, if they want to look it up, if I may just share a website or two.
Sure, go ahead. Right ahead. Share it. Go ahead. Share it.
Okay. Please, it's StopOrganHarvesting.org, simple. And there's also UpholdJustice.org. And the reports are there. The Kilgore and Mattis report is there as well, and all the reports are there. The Kilgore and Mattis report by David Kilgore and David Mattis, the two international human rights lawyers in Canada, they investigated these allegations of the forced organ harvesting, basically of live Falun Gong being cut open while alive in over 700 hospitals between 2000 and 2005, and they proved that there were over 45,000 cases. Now, recently, the World Organization to investigate the persecution of Falun Gong have reported that at least 2 million and up to 6 million have been reported to have killed alive for their organs. And this is
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. This is in China. This is in China, correct? This is in China, correct?
This is in China, absolutely, yeah. And the thing is, why people should know about this, because the number one threat to the United States and our constitutional freedoms, which our forefathers and our GIs, American GIs, and our baby boomers fought so hard to protect, are now threatened by the communist regime and its ideology that has seeped into and influenced into America. And I'll give you an example. Today I heard I live in Georgia, and I live in East Cobb, which is quite an affluent community area. I just heard today that the Cobb County School Board is forcing people, parents, to go to school for their children, and they do not. They are going to take away extracurricular and sport activities from their children. Now, when I heard this made me my blood boil. That how un-American, how unconstitutional, and how communistic this is. I mean, forcing people beyond their consent to do what they want them to do. Otherwise, I'm taking something away. That is the beginning of communism. That is Maoism. That's Marxism. And that is not allowed in such a beautiful country that we are having. That's why I really hope the Americans can stand by the First Amendment and the Second Amendment and the Constitution and really take back and not allow this communistic influence that is coming from communist China because of the money and because of the power.
That's correct. That's just like out in California. That's just as out in California. I did a show a few weeks ago about the forced vaccinations. It's now state law.
Shocking.
Yeah,
right.
Terrible.
And Common Core, this communist core. I mean, just now they're going to make American kids spy on their parents, and it's ridiculous. So this ideology must be smashed, and the only way to do it is to get the word out. And everyone, like I said, Joseph, is distracted by ISIS and the presidential elections. But and that is what China, the communist regime. The official title of the gangster regime that has controlled China for the last 50 years, and I'll get into it if you'd like on your show when you have me on, which is great, has controlled China. The Chinese Communist Party, they like nothing more than to be in the darkness, and they deceive, they play double standards. I mean, just the other day, they were saying how North Korea shouldn't do this, and that's bad North Korea. But on the back burner, they are funding the whole nuclear weapons program. So they're masters of deception. So never underestimate the power of deception.
Who's funding North Korea? Bad North Korea, but you're right. Then behind the scenes, it's China. It's China that's funding North Korea and helping them. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Anyway, I've been working with the international community, the FBI. See, I've got a lot of people in the intelligence community. I was just talking to a guy, Special Forces in Papua New Guinea, and he was sharing. He watched one of my videos that I had. Well share it with you. But he said to me, the destabilization of Europe by ISIS and is the one that wants it the most is China. They're funding on the back burner. I mean, it's unbelievable. The Saudis, the Russians. It's such a double standard. But the world unfortunately will see this in the future, if not now. But thank you, Joseph, for allowing me to share, man. I really appreciate it, and I will email you.
You're welcome. Please, like I said, just again, my email is joegibsonisHome@yahoo.com. I hope you got that down correct. Email me, and within the next couple of weeks, you get a couple individuals along with yourself, put together a panel, and I'll give you the floor. I'll give you 90 minutes. I'll advertise the show, and we'll start getting the word out.
Wonderful. And everyone out there, please, stoporganharvesting.org, upholdjustice.org, read the Kilgore Mattis report, because this is a new kind and a new form of evil that hasn't been exposed on such a large scale since the Holocaust. So thanks, Joseph, for giving me the stage today, and God bless you, man. I'll talk to you soon. I'll email you very soon.
I hope so. Please. Thank you very much for your time, sir. Thank you for calling in. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
That was good. I got something to say about that.
Yeah, go ahead. You can contribute. I just muted him. Go ahead, but you're on.
We got a similar situation here in the United States. You can't say cure anything, because if you say cure, you're arrested and thrown in jail. And everything is a magical act in this country. When did they pass the Federal Reserve Act? On Christmas Eve? Just Friday, a senator from Connecticut stood in front of the House, the Senate, and he said, because Obama is going to get full control of the military, full control. He can send them anywhere in the world for any reason whatsoever. But you know what? When he said this, we were having a blizzard in Washington, D.C., and everyone else was busy. It's all a magic act. We got Planned Parenthood, who is harvesting body parts, and the people who videotaped them exposing what they were doing were actually arrested when it went to the grand jury. So the whole governments are this way. And what I think it's boiling down to with the organ harvesting and everything, if you had a robotic army, a robotic military, there is no human intervention then.
That's true, and that's called the eugenics program of the New World Order, which I never got into. And you're absolutely correct. But that was very interesting. That was an interesting caller. That's a new caller. And, hey, if he does have the connections that he claims he does, and we can get some exposure to this could be it will help my show, and it'll help him get the word out. So this could be an international thing, and hopefully what he sounds very educated. He gave me the reason why I say that is the way he started. He started out with the foundation and how it began, and then told us what's going on, and that's very important. and how you educate people. You have to start at the beginning. You just can't start at the end and say, this is what it's all about, and you have to start so people can understand what's going on. And China is the root of all evil. China is, and he's absolutely correct. And China does control our nation's economy today. If China stopped exporting to this country would be screwed. What do you see on the back of every product you buy today? Made in China, correct?
Right, and it used to be made in Japan, but that changed. Everything used to be made in Japan before.
That's correct. So what he brought up was a very important issue, according what's going on with the New World Order. And when he, and hopefully he does email me with the information. So Joe and Meriden, I know I'll have you listening, and I will advertise the show, and hopefully we can get the word out, because this is a crime that, like I was honest with him, I do not know very much about the organ harvesting going on in China. But you brought up a very interesting point, Joe, Planned Parenthood. The organ harvesting going on here in America with Planned Parenthood, selling baby parts. Maybe that is tied into this China thing. We don't know, but hopefully, we can talk about this, because I'm dead set against Planned Parenthood. And I know he's in the chat room right now, and he just sent us the link, and there's about 14 people in the chat room, so that's good. And if everyone could forward that link, that would be great. So, but anyway, go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
And if you remember a minute ago, I talked about the English language and how everything is deceptive. And he mentioned that he went to Fox News. Well, it's really not Fox News. It's Fox Entertainment. So, therefore, you know what? They don't want anything to do with that.
That's absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. And, hopefully, something comes about of this, and we can get this individual back on. He emails me. Hey, a lot of people talk to me, and they give me these show ideas, but he sounded pretty legitimate. So hopefully, we go forward. Like I see, and and the supporters of this show know that we get a lot of people who want to come on and talk, and then they never show up. But he seemed legitimate. He's educated. He's from China, and he lives in Georgia now. And he thanked America for allowing him to come into this country and start his life here. But for him to expose the evil from the country he is from, or wherever he's from, or what he knows about, is very that's a great thing, and that's what America's about. Like he said at the end, the First Amendment. You see, in alternative media, we have the First Amendment. In the national media and on the TV, you don't. It's all edited, it's programmed, and you're told what to say. But you see, we're live, 100% live, unedited. And that's why I give all callers, like when we did the show a few months ago about Not Just Another Number, and we did a thing about the show about prison corruption in the state of Connecticut, where we had multiple people call in and talk about how people were abused and tortured. And that was very important. And they're moving forward with their organization. So this show helped them get exposure. And I know a few people I put in contact with them didn't follow through with what they said they were going to do. But they grew into a bigger organization, and that was very important. And hopefully this happens, because harvesting of body parts, organs, is disgusting. It's despicable. It's ungodly. And we know China is a communist country. And you see, we bash the country of Iran because they suppress their people. But doesn't China suppress their people also? I mean, this individual just called in. The examples he just gave us is far worse than what Iran is doing to their people. But why do we not hear anything in the national media about this? Why? Well, like he said, it's all about the money. They control the money over here, and these politicians don't want anything to do with it. But you know what? We'll expose it, and we still have the First Amendment in this country, and we'll talk about it, and hopefully he'll contact me. But Joe, is there anything else you want to talk about here, real quick?
No, that was Christopher Murphy, the senator from Connecticut that I was talking about. But I think Hoover, I think it was President Hoover, he wanted a chicken in every pot and everything because, people needed to eat. And, we need a president that's going to have a slogan like a gun in every living room. And that's all I got to say for tonight.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go ahead and give Dr. Ventura a call real quick, and I'm actually going to bring this topic up to Peter. He's actually a pastor of a church in San Diego, California, and he has a doctorate in theology. And if he can, I'm going to actually ask him if he heard about this organ harvesting, because this is new to me, and when I'm uneducated about something, I'm very interested in learning about it, and that's why I was honest with him. I said, hey, look, I don't know anything about it. I'm not going to lie. But anyway, I'm going to call Dr. Ventura right now, so hopefully he'll answer. I'm calling him right now live. So just bear with me for about 30 seconds, people that are on the line and everyone else who's listening.
Hello?
Hello, Peter Ventura. Dr. Peter Ventura, how you doing? This is Joseph Gibson. I told you I was going to give you a call tonight. So you are live right now on Blog Talk Radio. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing well this evening. Thank you. How are you, Joseph?
Peter, I'm doing all right. I had an interesting subject come about the show, actually, tonight. I got many people on the phone line live, about 45, actually, and I got about 13 or 14 in the chat room. Whoever's listening on their smartphones, I have no idea, or on the internet, I have no idea, but only what I see on my computer. But I had someone call in from Georgia, and they talked about organ harvesting and what's going on in China. And do you know anything about that by any chance?
Well, that's not only going on in China, but it's going on around in Africa and other third world countries. And prisoners, and usually prisoners, it is dissent, those who dissent against the government, they're executing them and then taking their organs and selling them.
He actually stated that they were he actually stated some people are being held prisoner and cut open alive in some instances in China. So this is horrible. This is horrible. And he said communist China is a huge threat to America today because of how much power they have over our currency, the economy, and the fact that they're a communist regime. And we, as Americans, should be alerted to this because this is something that's going to affect us in the future. Now he claimed he has connections with the World Health Organization, many other organizations around the world, and he sent us several links that are in the chat room now. And we're going to try to put together a show in the next couple of weeks where we and a panel of some people that he's groups that he's a part of or some of his friends, where we can give this some sort of exposure because he contacted Fox News, and of course they were so horrified at what he said that they had no control or power to broadcast something like that because basically they're owned by these corporations. And we already talked about this anyway. We don't need to beat something dead into the ground.
Well, unbeknownst to most Americans,
media,
unbeknownst to most Americans, Chevrolet, the American Chevrolet company, backs communist China.
Sure.
And is a great contributor to the communist regime. It's all about capitalism.
Yeah, and that's not what America is about. And he actually he's an immigrant who came over here and became a United States citizen, and he thanked the American people for allowing him to come over here. So I respect that. That was the first thing that I respected right away because he's happy.
It's funny you should say that. It's funny you should say that because my sister was recently in Michigan, and there was an immigrant from Russia there, and he was standing before the bread aisle, and he was crying. Tears were running down his face. And my sister said, "Sir, can I help you? Is there something wrong?" And he said, "No, I've never had so many choices in my life."
Wow. And we as Americans don't understand that. We don't understand that. These people who live in communist China or these third world countries, they don't have the choices we have here. Now, granted, we talk about tyranny here in America and that we are losing our rights every day, but actually we are. But we still are the freest people in the world, and we need to make sure we keep it that way. And that was one of the most important, stressful parts that we had, I think, was the basis and foundation of our conversation. But we're going to do a show in the future about that. But, Peter, I called you in not to talk about me or what's going on in the future, and I know you're the host of the Sound Doctrine broadcast at 9 p.m. on Thursday, tonight, which is tonight, Eastern Standard Time, and it's a theology show where you talk about the Bible and everything, and rightly dividing the Bible. What's going to be your show topic tonight?
Well, we're not exactly sure tonight, this evening. We'll probably continue in a doctrinal study of the Word of God. We'll go down that way. Once a month, I like to do some old path preaching. People don't get to hear real preaching anymore. They get patted on the head and sent home, or they get something practical, about hope, have hope with it, and that's needful. But there's no conviction of sin in a person's life. I mean, Bible study will edify you, but preaching is what really gets a man's heart right. And so I like to do a little old path preaching and touch some hearts and change some lives and that type of thing.
Peter,
so that's probably what we'll be doing this evening.
Yeah, just think, Peter. Just think, in these third world countries, they're not allowed to. They have to hide when they talk about the Bible. We talked about ISIS too. Yes, ISIS distracts us, and they're a huge problem with this organ harvesting thing. That's more huge. It's bigger than the ISIS from what I'm gathering now. As stuff I'm reading right now, actually.
It's a national threat in China. I mean, but ISIS is a world threat. And ISIS is nothing new. The problem is that people haven't looked at history, and if they'd go to the Internet and they would just Google the Ottoman Empire, and they would learn that this was attempted before by Muslim nations to take over the world. This is not the first time. And so it's an ideology, and our president standing up there saying that there's all Muslims are peaceful people except these extremists, and that's not what they are. They're not extremists. They're Muslims, and they're carrying out their faith, and that's what their faith says. And it's okay to lie to their enemies in order to achieve the goal for their God. So they're in this country.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a biblical question, Peter. Let me ask you a biblical question. Now, now we get into the biblical debate here, where people say, well, why is your religion? Why do you call it? I was on a blog talk show a few weeks ago, and someone said the Bible talks about nothing but killing people and hurting women and wars. So why is the Bible any different than the Quran?
Well, the Bible is different from the Quran in the nature of itself. I mean, it tells the true nature of mankind. God chose a people to represent Him, who were going to bring the message of and the knowledge of God to the world. And so He chose the people He had, and He chose the littlest of all the people to bring those things. And there were people who were enemies of God. Everybody thinks this idea that, hey, we're all the children of God, and that's not what the biblical perspective is. The Bible actually says those who are born again, those who are saved, the children of God. See, and I had this conversation with a gentleman today earlier, and he asked me, he said the same thing. He said, what bothered me is I heard the preacher say that if my cousins or my brothers weren't saved, they wouldn't be in heaven with me. I had to explain to him, listen, God has given man free will. God doesn't make you love Him. You have a choice. My way is not the only way. There's another way, and that's choose to be separated from God. So God is, imagine having a child you had to make love you, or a wife. What kind of relationship would that be? And so God doesn't make us love Him. He gives us free will and a choice, and we can choose to spend eternity with God, or the alternative is to spend eternity without God. And so one of the biggest problems that I've had in my life and studying the world religions is that you come to one thing about Jesus Christ. He made some truth claims, and He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. He didn't say there was any other way. And so now I have a problem. If He's the way, the truth, and the life, then who do these other people represent?
Okay, Peter. Okay, but hang on. They say, well, what proof do you have that that's true? Why is your Bible true and not the Quran? What proof do you have that that is really the Word of God? Man wrote that, right?
Well, I have the proof historically, without even going into the whether or not God exists. The Bible doesn't set out to prove the existence of God. God says, I am. In the beginning was God. So the Bible isn't a book that sets out to prove that He is a God. The Bible says He is God. And so what makes my Bible more accurate than any other documents in the world is the closeness to the manuscripts of God. Now listen, Joe, if I wanted to relate to an ant, how could I speak to an ant? He hasn't the intelligence I have. So I'm far beyond his means. I would have to become an ant to communicate to an ant. And God is far beyond your and my understanding. And so what he did was he became a man in Jesus Christ. And he sent his son, the God-man, to communicate with human beings, you see, so that we could understand God. And so this question, why is my religion a correct religion? Well, let's look at the results of all the others. What is the alternative? I go to Buddha, he's in the grave. I go to Muhammad, he's in the grave. The only one who did what he said he would do was Jesus Christ. He resurrected on the third day. I mean, there's eyewitness accounts. One person could put a person in jail for the rest of their life as a witness. But the Lord had over 500 witnesses at one time who saw the resurrected Christ. 500. And that's evidence, you see. These are eyewitness accounts. And we know he existed because even Josephus, who was a Jew, and he wasn't a Christian, Josephus writes about Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And
the Roman records actually show Jesus Christ's crucifixion, because Romans kept records of who they would crucify, because Jesus wasn't the only one that got hung up on a cross. That was their way of crucifying people. So and they kept records, and so there is a record of Jesus Christ being crucified.
Well, this is true, brother. And Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Gospels as we call them in the Bible, they're eyewitness accounts of the life of Jesus Christ. And so we have 3 eyewitnesses right there who have given their testimony. And the truth is that the earliest manuscripts to the originals is within 50 years. The papyra, Ryland papyra, it's a fragment. And then we go into about 75, 100, 150 years to the originals. We have copies. Now, you go back and you look at any other piece of secular history, Pliny Secundus, the Roman journals, and the Iliad, and Homer, and you look at those, the earliest manuscripts they have to the originals within 700 to 1,300 years, and they don't even have them. So most of them are fragmented or copies of copies, you see?
Yeah.
And so the evidence, the historical evidence, the literary evidence alone proves the accuracy of the manuscripts.
Peter,
and then you look at yes.
Peter, let me ask you a question. In the Bible, see, now we get to, we're just going to go back to the Quran, because there's, the big thing, the issue today is the Muslim and Christian debate. And they say Prophet Muhammad is the prophet that they believe is the one that they should follow. And they do believe Jesus Christ existed. However, we get to the Bible now. Now we know God prophesied in the Bible every prophet that came to be that walked on this earth. Okay? Where was Muhammad prophesied, and where was Jesus prophesied and foretold?
Well, here's the first problem we have. And I've spoken to many Muslims about this. They claim that God had promised a prophet who would be like unto Moses. And they go back to the Old Testament and they find that verse, and they say, see? And I tell them, no. If it's a prophet who's like unto Moses, then he has to be able to do, number one, signs and wonders. If he can't do signs and wonders, he can't be that prophet, because Moses was able to do those things. That's the first thing, you see.
Okay.
And their problem is that they want to make Jesus just a prophet, but Jesus wasn't just a prophet. He was a king, and he was God manifested in the flesh. He was the God-man. Muhammad was just a man. And by the way, Muhammad didn't write anything. His family did.
True.
And he was an epileptic.
True.
He used a henna. He dyed his hair orange.
And what verse is that in Deuteronomy? What is it? 13:13 is it? Where I will rise up a prophet amongst his brethren.
I think it's 13:32, if I'm not mistaken, or
13:32. Now, amongst his brethren, amongst his brethren would mean it would have to be a Jew, correct?
Correct. He'd have to be a Jew, because number one, remember, the Jewish religion begins with the Exodus out of Egypt begins with signs and wonders, because a Jew requires a sign. That's why Moses said, hey, I'm going to go down there and nobody's going to believe me. And God said, I'll give you these signs. So whoever's going to come and convince a Jew that he's a prophet, he better have those signs.
True. That's true. And all
Muhammad is not in the lineage. When you look at the genealogy in Matthew and Luke, you don't find Muhammad in that genealogy. and you don't find any of his descendants in that genealogy. You see? That's another thing.
I absolutely agree. It's just like you said. Even today, we would require signs to believe what we're seeing. I mean, if someone came and said, "Hey, I'm Jesus Christ today," what would we want to see? Miracles, correct? Or we're going to say he's full of crap. Okay, and that's what the Jews
what prophecy did Muhammad fulfill? None. They try to pin it on that one verse in the Bible, But the truth is that he fulfilled no prophecy. Jesus Christ has fulfilled over 100 prophecies in the Bible over a period of thousands and thousands of years. So where is the proof? And there isn't. It's just like saying to a Mormon, if a Mormon knocks on your door, ask them, say, "Can you give me one archaeological proof of Mormonism?" And they can't, because there isn't any. You see, but there is archaeological proof of Jesus Christ. There is archaeological proof of the Jewish religion, and there is, and so the origin of the Muslims comes from the side called Ishmael, and the prophecy that the Bible says that Ishmael would be a wild man, his hand would be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And now look at the world. What are the Muslims doing?
Who's Ishmael? Who's
every
Ishmael,
man.
Peter? Ishmael is the Muslim.
Well, Abraham had 2 children, and those children, Abraham was told by God that he would have a child who would be the child of promise, who would bring forth the 12 tribes of Israel. His wife, Sarah, was 97 years old, and she said, "Look, I'm not waiting for God. It's impossible for me to have a child at this age." So she told her husband, Abraham, to go to her maid, and have a child with that maid who could be Abraham's heir, because she felt she was too old. She didn't realize that God's the God of the impossible. And so what happened was that's who Ishmael was. And then God came back, and, he was angry. He told him, well, Ishmael is not the child of promise. The child of promise is Isaac. And so Sarah did bring forth a son named Isaac, who did bring forth 12 tribes of Israel. Ishmael, on the other hand, was blessed because he was Abraham's child, and he would be a prince. And the Bible clearly says he was a prince. And so there we have the beginning of the Muslim nation. That's where he comes from.
See, people need to understand where these people originated from. See, that's a big misconception. A lot of people say there's no such thing as Palestine. What's Palestine? Or they say, Palestine. Why
Palestine is a lie.
Yeah.
Palestine is a lie because there was never a country called Palestine. It was a territory. It was a land, and it was called the land of Palestine. It was ruled by 25 kings. No one nation called Palestine. And so the guy who got convinced the world that there was a nation called Palestine was Arafat. And Arafat was an Egyptian. He wasn't even a Palestinian. And he married a Roman Catholic on top of that.
So people that's what I talked about, Peter, that's what I talked about in my introduction. Misinformation. Misconception of things. That's what's really happening. We're all entitled to our opinions. However, the fact remains, does not mean it's truth. We need to really understand the truth, and that's where we get screwed up everywhere,
well, if you tell a lie long enough, somebody's going to believe it.
True. And if Jesus Christ was a lie, more good came from that lie than any other time in the history of the world. Because we all know when you tell a lie, nothing comes good of it. And that's why tonight on your show I'm going to call in, because I have a couple very, very important people that have important prayer requests. One person is actually going to be on their deathbed soon. So it's very important that you get me on at least for a few minutes tonight on the Sound Doctrine broadcast, okay?
Amen.
All right. Anyway, Peter, if anyone has a question for Peter real quick, because I'm going to start getting ready to wrap it up. We had a very interesting show tonight. We had international listeners tonight, so that's great. And we had a very interesting show. So if anyone has something they want to ask Peter real quick, or we're going to start getting ready to wrap it up, or if they have something they want to talk about real fast, we do have 20 minutes left, but I'm going to wrap it up a little bit early. But they can call in or butt in. I know there's a couple of people still live on the line. And the phone number is 657-383-0616. Press 1, and you'll be connected to me. If not, I'm going to start getting ready to wrap it up. So here's your chance.
Well, I want you to know that I'm available. I'll speak in anybody's church anywhere around the country and the world, for that fact. So if anybody's really interested and they want to learn
give
what I'm
some
saying.
of your background. Give some of your background, Peter, and your credentials, because there are people that listen. We have a couple international listeners, actually. So go ahead.
Well, I have a doctorate in religious education. I'm currently working on a PhD in world religion. I recently dropped out of law school, I don't believe. I'm pastor of the Bible Believers Baptist Church in Imperial Beach, California. I have a sound doctrine broadcast on Thursday nights, and we have a Monday night ladies class, and I've been published around the world and in England and other places. I've recently written a commentary on Haggai that I'm looking at a contract with Star Publications, and so some of the material's out there. But, credentials are, listen, you take a guy like Pastor Doug Fisher up there, Lighthouse Baptist Church. He's got, about 600 people up there, and the guy's never been to school. I mean, he's just blessed by God, and he has wisdom, and that's what we teach. We teach Bible. If you want to know Bible, that's all I'm going to give you is Bible. Anything I say you'll find in the Bible, and if it's not so, then I'm not going to say it. So that's why people come from.
Peter, real quick. On a personal nature, you had a lot of. I mean, real quick, because we're going to be pressed for time. Then I know you can't tell it all, but can you give me a little bit about what happened to you with this insurance nonsense? And you had some water damage with your home. Can you just tell me the nightmare you've been through over the last 3 months?
Well, I'm covered by State Farm insurance, and auto insurance. I had an accident cover me immediately, but I had a sewage leak last year. I had a plumber come out. He broke a tool in the sewer system. Never told anybody. Broke the riser in the slab. These homes don't have basements, they have slabs. And so it took 14 days for my adjuster to get out here. In the meantime, I had to hire a plumbing company and didn't have really time to shop around, just hired a large company, and they came in, and they just abused me from October till just recently till today. Today was the final inspection. And, the guys were coming to the job and just not working and hanging out, and my wife was stuck in a motel room with me, and our grandchildren, 4 grandchildren, 2 adults, were stuck in a 2-bedroom house since October. I mean, it's just been one thing after another, and the insurance company, they said because you have a mortgage on your home, any money that you need to pay for the services has to come to the mortgage company and to you, so you have to sign it off, send it to the mortgage company, and the mortgage company's going to wait until they're ready, and at 50% will disperse some of the money when they send out their inspector, who takes 7 to 10 days to get out here. And so then now you have bill collectors saying your bills are late and they want interest on their payments, and your contractors. One thing I will tell everybody is if you make a contract with anybody, the one thing you want to make sure of is a deadline, a start and finish time, and that there's a penalty clause. That for every day that they go over that finish date, that they're not done, they have to pay you. That's the way it should be done. And don't ever let anybody come in and have you sign a contract and accept and pay them more than 10% before the job's done. In most states, it's illegal, and in most states, you have a buyer's remorse clause. You have 3 days. Don't ever let anybody start work unless it's a serious emergency. Don't let them start work. You have 3 days to make a decision whether you really should be in this contract or not, and whether the terms are what you want them to be. And that's what happened to me. I got in a contract. It was a sewer system. I had sewage in the walls of the house. It was a 2,400 square foot house, and it was a lot of damage. And it was a level 3 bacteria in the home. I had to go to the hospital for an allergy outbreak. My granddaughter had a bacteria rash on her face, and this is all because the insurance company took 14 days to get out here. And so you need to know that in that situation, the first thing you do is you call a restoration company and a laboratory to find out what's in your home, because most homes built before 78 have asbestos in the walls. And these plumbers came here and they opened the walls in the house while my children, grandchildren were in the house, and I was, my wife, without even telling us that there was asbestos in the walls. And so now we've all been exposed to asbestos.
Wow. So what was the outcome? What's the final conclusion to this? How did you make out?
Well, the final conclusion is I had to upgrade and get the copper pipes out from under the house, so that cost $34,000 of my own money. The insurance company, this plumbing company charged me $20-something thousand to rebuild the sewer system in the home, but the insurance company said, well, you hired them on your own without us approving it, so we're only going to pay you $16,000. So they sent out their own guy to take an adjustment, and their own guy came and said, well, we'd only charge them $12,000. So the insurance company said, well, our guy says 12, you paid 20, we'll give you 16. So what I did was I sent a picture of the little girl's face, and I told the insurance company, what are you saying? This is my granddaughter because you took 14 days to get out here. And then they agreed finally to pay the whole $20,000 on that part. But it cost, to repair the home, it was about $100,000.
Wow.
$73,000 had to come from the insurance. And here's one other thing, Joe. Watch your agent. Watch your insurance agent. Because you need to ask your insurance agent. Most people think their property's insured along with their house. I mean, liability in case somebody gets hurt, yes. But if your house burns down, the actual value of your house is all you're getting back, plus 10% for upgrades. You know, if there's codes have changed and you have to change some things. So my wife was with the agent, and the agent for 15 years has been charging for a $680,000 policy when the actual rebuild cost of the house was half of that. You see?
Really?
And so they've been collecting double the policy. And I went there and I said to the guy, I said, look, what would it cost if my house burned right to the ground right now to rebuild? And he said about $400,000. So I said, well, why are you charging my wife for a $680,000 policy? And he said, well, that's what she asked for. And I said, well, excuse me, did you ever inform her she could never recover that money? She'd only get a fraction of that? And he said, well, we give the customer what they want. So you need to make sure you're insuring your home. If your home's worth $325,000, you want to have a $400,000 policy on it, so the upgrades are covered because you're going to have code upgrades. So you have to be. You know, you could spend an hour on this stuff. This is something that homeowners don't know, and they don't experience. You know, and your insurance company is supposed to pay for your time in a hotel, and they try and lowball you. They tried to send me down by the Mexican border to some slum. You know, and I told the guy, where are you from? The company they use, State Farm use. He says, well, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. And I said, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. My wife and I are real nice people, and we want to invite you and your wife down to that hotel to spend the next summer, and we'll pay for it.
There you go. There you go.
You know?
Hey, Peter, thanks for calling. I mean, thanks for accepting my call tonight. That was very interesting about the insurance, and that was good on the Bible. So tonight was a pretty good show. So, hey, Peter,
amen, brother.
I'll check in with you tonight on the Sound Doctrine show, and anyone who wants to listen to Peter tonight, it'll be at 9 p.m. The Sound Doctrine on Enterprise Media, Blog Talk Radio, Dr. Peter Ventura, and I'm going to call in too. So any of my fans, hey, you got a little extra time, tune in for a little while over there, and I'm sure Peter will keep you entertained. But hey, Peter, thanks. I'm going to get ready to wrap it up, and I'll talk to you a little bit later, okay?
All right, Joe. God bless you and your family and your listening audience, and stay strong. Keep your knees on the floor, nose in the Bible, and eyes on the Lord, brother. Amen?
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade in downtown Dallas. The first reports say that President Kennedy has been seriously wounded by this shooting.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
It was almost as if it were a planned implosion. It just pancaked.
Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
But I also believe that a lot of gun owners would agree that AK-47s belong in the hands of soldiers, not in the hands of criminals.
Renewed hostile actions against United States ships on the high seas and the Gulf of Tonkin have today required me to order the military forces of the United States to take action in reply.
Dr. Martin Luther King, the the apostle of nonviolence in the civil rights movement, has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee.
Senator Kennedy has been shot. Is that possible? He still has the gun. The gun is pointed at me right at this moment. Take a hold of his thumb and break it if you have to. We will go on a we have an explosion and we are defending and we agree. Let's try our best.
People calling themselves members of the Weather Underground last night planted bombs in federal office buildings in Washington and Oakland, California.
They took the babies out of incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
Survivors of the USS Liberty are demanding a congressional investigation into what happened and acknowledgement that the Israeli Air Force bombed a U.S. intelligence Navy ship.
The death of bin Laden marks the most significant achievement to date in our nation's effort to defeat al-Qaeda.
The Taliban is taking responsibility for shooting down a U.S. helicopter. More than 30 people were killed, and there are reports this morning that most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
There may be a false flag incident where some ship goes down and be used for the excuse to accelerate the next war.
If there's one thing that has unified Democrats and Republicans, and everybody in between, is that we all hated the bank bailout.
The Department of Homeland Security is apparently on a huge ammo buying spree.
It comes out to like 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition.
Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people.
They estimated that they would have to eliminate 25 million people in these re-education centers. And when I say eliminate, I mean kill.
I'm here to warn people. You keep telling me to shut up. This isn't a game.
From the front lines of the information war.
Now let's set the record straight. There's no argument over the choice between peace and war, but there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second. Surrender. Admittedly, there's a risk in any course we follow other than this, but every lesson of history tells us that the greater risk lies in appeasement, and this is the specter our well-meaning liberal friends refuse to face. That their policy of accommodation is appeasement. And it gives no choice between peace and war, only between fight or surrender. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we have to face the final demand, the ultimatum. And what then? When Nikita Khrushchev has told his people he knows what our answer will be. He has told them that we're retreating under the pressure of the Cold War, and someday, when the time comes to deliver the final ultimatum, our surrender will be voluntary, because by that time we will have been weakened from within spiritually, morally, and economically. He believes this because from our side he's heard voices pleading for peace at any price, or better rev than death, or as one commentator put it, he'd rather live on his knees than die on his feet. And therein lies the road to war, because those voices don't speak for the rest of us. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. If nothing in life is worth dying for, when did this begin? Just in the face of this enemy? Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaohs? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriots at Concord Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard round the world? The martyrs of history were not fools, and our honored dead who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis didn't die in vain. Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay, there is a point beyond which they must not advance. Winston Churchill said the destiny of man is not measured by material computations. When great forces are on the move in the world, we learn we're spirits, not animals. He said there's something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.